Welcome to another edition of the Progressive Dispatch. Today we want to spend a few minutes talking about the current stimulus package that's going through Congress that is being called everything from porculus to the greatest spending bill ever. The Republicans have come to the table in an effort to negotiate a deal to get this bill through the Senate. But the Republicans have come with the same ideas that George Bush brought to office. Cut corporate taxes. Cut the taxes of the wealthy, and we will be better off. They're saying to us, the corporations of America have our best interest at heart. They will take care of the country and make sure that the country is okay. Well, we can answer that by saying Enron. We can answer that by saying WorldCom. We can answer that by saying Bernie Madoff and all of the other hedge fund managers that we're now finding out were thieves. We can answer that by talking about the insurance companies that people pay health insurance premiums into, and then they deny them coverage when they need health insurance to cover them. We can talk about so much that says the corporations don't have our best interest at heart. But let's use a positive to point out that corporations don't have our best interest at heart. We want to use a positive. 2 years ago, a textile factory burned down. The owner of the textile factory decided that, hey, during this period when we are rebuilding the factory, I am going to keep all of my employees on their full regular pay with all of their benefits, just as if they were coming into work every morning. And everybody lauded him and hailed him as a hero. Until finally, when somebody caught up with him to interview him, he said, "I'm not no hero. The amount of money it would cost me to go find a guy with 20 years of experience, like some of these men that are working for me, is much more than what it would cost me to keep him on the payroll until the factory is ready to go again, so he can come in and do what he does best so I can make profit." It shows you how little we expect from our corporations. It shows you how much we've been schooled to believe that the corporation is an entity where the employee is a liability, he's not an asset. And the corporations out there believe this. Because, hey, as soon as times get a little tight, they start cutting employees. They start saying, hey, people got to lose their jobs. So the corporation are looking at the employee as a liability more so than an asset to them. Okay? And lots of corporations out there are not cutting employees because, hey, they're facing losses. They're cutting employees to maintain profitability. And somebody's going to say to me, hey, those two things are the same thing. If I am cutting losses or maintaining profitability, I am doing the same thing. So I got to take a little time out here to explain what I mean. When a corporation makes $10 million in profit this year, for argument's sake, and it gives to its shareholders a $2 per share dividend. Okay? Next year, if the corporation does the same thing that they did this year, sold the same amount, had the same amount of workers, they were going to make less profit and would be able to pay their shareholders $1.50 dividend on each share. Well, some bean counter comes in and he says, hey, you know what? If we cut 500 jobs, we can give our shareholders a $2.50 per share dividend. At the same time, the price of our share will go up on the stock market. The company is not cutting jobs here to cut losses. They're cutting jobs here to maintain or even exceed profitability from last year. Now, how can a corporation do that and then look at me and say, I am an asset? It's looking at me as a liability because what it's concerned about is profits. So in these times when we're hearing how the economy is stuff and times are hard and things are not going good, Lots of these corporations that are cutting thousands of jobs, they're not cutting jobs because they're losing money. When we hear them cut jobs, we think, hey, they got a guy in the factory that they don't need anymore because, hey, they used to sell 10, now they only selling 7, so they don't need that guy to build the extra 3. But this is not the case. What is happening is that a corporation will look at a position, and let's say that position is filled by 5 people working 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. They then go ahead and get rid of 3 people. So now 2 people are doing the job that 5 people used to do. They're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay? The corporation has cut expenses. Them 3 guys that are gone, they're not paying them any salary anymore. Yeah, they might have to pay the other 2 guys some more overtime. But hey, those other 2 guys only have 2 benefit plans, 2 health plans, 2 pensions. You know, they only got to pay 2 Social Security. Now they ain't got to pay 5. So you see where we're going? We're cutting jobs to maintain profitability because when times are hard, the employee becomes a liability other than an asset. So what do we say at this point? We say the time has come not only for the card check bill to be passed so that we can unionize workers. We need a law that says if a company is cutting workers to maintain profitability, if you're cutting workers and you're not losing money, if you're cutting workers and all you're doing this for is to drive up the price of your stock on Wall Street and to pay more dividends to your investors, you know what we want to tell you? We want you to know that now the government should say for every 18 months this worker worked with you, you have to pay him 6 months full salary and full benefits like he was here working. Then we would see how many jobs would be cut. Because, hey, they don't want to pay you to do nothing. So they'll keep you on the job instead of letting you go and having to pay you 6 months for every 18 months that you work. Because a lot of these companies are not losing any money. A lot of these companies are doing this for profitability. And if times are hard on Wall Street and they're hard on Main Street, we all got to give a little. The corporations got to be willing to say, hey, we're going to make less profits. The CEO going to say, hey, I'm going to take less bonuses and less salary and less flights on a corporate jet, and I won't be taking my family down to Tijuana or Acapulco or wherever in the corporate jet. Okay? We have to all bear some of the pain, because if we're in this together, the corporations got to be in there with us and the employees got to be in there with us. So until we begin to expect more from our corporations, and when I say expect more, I mean we have to expect that when times are hard, they're going to bear some of the pain too. Not just by laying people off and claiming that times are tough, but they want to keep $10 million and $20 billion worth of profit. I mean, when times are tough, we're going to keep the workers on. And we're going to make sure we keep people working until, hey, we're losing money by keeping them. That's when we're going to stop. When we find out that, hey, if we keep these people, we'll be losing money. Because if the corporation is not expected to do just that, then what is happening right now is what's going to happen for generations to come. Whenever time gets tough, the corporations say, hey, you know, it's time for those who can least afford to be without, to be left without. And we who can afford to keep them on for some length of time until things pick up, we're going to let them go. Just so that we can keep our profit. That's not the way it should be. We're all in this together. And that is what progressive is. Thanks for joining the Dispatch.